your left. Braun-Duin is on your right. Both these players off to a fantastic start here this weekend. They are 4-0. We're going to see Jim at the Players' Championship in 2 weeks at the Star City Game Center in Roanoke, Virginia, because he's going to try to defend his title. For BBD, oh, he's not defending the World Championship title just yet, but he'd like to get back to the Players' Championship, I'm sure, a place where he has been before. He'll start by playing a Mirish's Bauble. Take a look at the top card of his deck as we do begin round number 5, our very first of Modern. We know you love Modern at home, so this should be fun. And hey, it's your favorite card.
Yep. Remember when people didn't put this in decks?
many a moons ago, I do remember.
Remember when people who were even really good and had played Magic for a long time didn't understand how the game engine worked?
Yeah, Gataxian Probe, that seems a little foolish now. You see Brian's going to write down Jim's hand. You see a Serum Visions, a Mana Leak. I believe Jim has a Probe of his own. A Delver of Secrets, a Tasigur, a Polluted Delta, and a Steam Vent. So Jim's hand's very capable.
Yes.
That's a good hand.
But not really great in this kind of matchup, especially on the draw, though the cantrips in Davis' hand can potentially clean up. A nice thing for Davis in this matchup, unlike Infect, which has a lot of cheap counterspells and cheap ways to protect creatures, the card Terminate is very solid against Death Shadow aggro, especially when paired with Snapcaster Mage. So if you can find a copy of that, he's got something going.
Here's Thoughtseize. We'll take care of a Delver of Secrets. And now Brian is going to draw a card from his Bauble trigger. He's already down to 14, so he's working his way down for the old Death Shadow. And you mentioned Terminate. Well, found it.
Yep, a great draw for Davis, especially with BBD having Thoughtseize Davis on the first turn and not being aware that there's a Terminate in hand.
Now remember, Modern, a very, very fast format. Life totals, they go down pretty quickly between Fetch lands, Ravnica Shock lands, and of course Phyrexian Mana spells. So to see BBD at 14 already, not much of a surprise. Jim is going to be going lower here in just a minute as well. He's already down to 18. Brian's hand has a Wild Nacatl, another Thoughtseize, and quite a few lands here in Verdant Catacombs, Wooded Foothills, and Godless Shrine.
Way more mana than he needs to work with. Really, the top end of this, what this deck wants is 3 mana. That's the critical point for Temur Battle Rage plus Become Immense. But in the absence of those cards, 3 mana is too much, and 4 is certainly excessive.
Jim's got all the information down now. He'll draw a card from the Probe, found himself a copy of Lightning Bolt. Interaction aplenty here for Davis. The one thing he's missing is a clock. That got stripped via the Thoughtseize. That's why the Delver of Secrets is in the graveyard. He will play a Steam Vents untapped, down to 16. Here is Serum Visions. Davis will draw, and now he will scry 2. We'll see where those cards will go. Scalding Tarn and Serum Visions are the cards he's looking at for the scry.
Incidentally, just putting a lot of cards in his graveyard effectively for free, facilitating delve cards and other graveyard matter synergies down the road.
Looks like he's going to leave those 2 cards on top and just simply pass the turn back.
These two look like players who have figured out what the good cards are. What is the thing to be doing?
A lot of cheap stuff, a lot of stuff that goes in your graveyard. It's a good place to be. The Godless Shrine here for Brian.
2 Mana Leaks is a lot of Mana Leaks, though. It's a lot of that card.
2 Mana Leaks in one deck is a lot.
That's a ton.
Yeah. Here's Thoughtseize. Jim will show some of the new cards he's drawn in Lightning Bolt and Terminate. One of the Mana Leaks, a Thought Scour, a Tasigur, and a Polluted Delta.
And with this hand, with 2 removal spells against the 1 threat that BBD has, he might have to take Tasigur out of his hand and play a bit of a waiting game, since he can't do a whole lot proactive. And Tasigur is coming down next turn.
With ease.
Not great to be in a waiting game against Chris Silver with multiple removal spells in hand, but it's better than being under a clock.
Well, there goes Tasigur.
It's a painful choice. You hate leaving Jim with 2 live removal spells there, but there's no way to keep him off of killing the Wild Nacatl, so you got to slow the game down a little bit.
Davis will draw. Picked up the Scalding Tarn. Remember, he left that on top.
That card's completely busted too, by the way.
Scalding Tarn?
Yeah, not even close to okay.
Well, there's Lightning Bolt. Another good Magic card.
Right. That's the first card that someone's played so far that might be okay. Maybe the Wild Nacatl too, maybe.
A Polluted Delta wraps up Jim's turn. We head back over to Brian, who drew a land, last turn. We'll see what he's drawn this turn. Gataxian Probe, down to 8. There's the goods. I drew a Scalding Tarn.
Assuming that BBD just needs to take the Terminate out of this hand, make the Mana Leak a dead card, Or excuse me, this is probe, not Thoughtseize. Hopefully he can find a discard spell, allow him to take the Terminate, because he needs basically 2 threats or threat plus discard spell to get anything going at this point.
One more Thoughtseize in the main deck here for Brian. He's going to play a Verdant Catacombs and simply pass the turn back. I was curious if Jim was going to sacrifice a Delta or not. Given that Brian doesn't have very much going on, he's free to draw the Serum Visions at this point, which is exactly what he's done.
Yeah, no reason to take the points, and the Serum Vision gives you some agency here in the event that, you know, you want to keep one of the fetch lands down, so if you find a card that might be good, might not be good, depending on what BBD has, you have the option of shuffling, leaving on top and then shuffling away.
Jim's going to sacrifice not 1, but 2 fetch lands. He's going to search up some mana. Looks like a couple of basics in Swamp and Island. Now he's got this Grixis Delver thing going, does the reigning players champion. This is a Serum Visions. Time for Jim to draw a card. I believe it was a Terminate. Now he will look at the top 2. Lightning Bolt and Delver of Secrets. Well,
that feels like leave all that on top. Get a clock going here, try to close out the game quickly. Also, Brian's at 8 here with a Bolt on top. It's a good setup here for Davis.
Doesn't have a lot of work left to do. Not 1, but 2 Terminates in hand. Mana Leak appears to be pretty good right now. It's a pretty good situation to be in.
Playing around Mana Leak, BBD can really only do it with a 1 mana spell, and even then, it requires him to crack a fetch land most likely. Makes the work even easier, and Davis has so much reaction in his hand here, he can probably handle any string of threats that the top of BBD's deck might offer.
Time for Brian to draw a card. Not a lot going on here for the World Champion. Just going to play a Wooded Foothills and pass the turn back. So we're going to go over to Jim here in just a moment. Jim will untap. He wants to draw that Delver. No need for that Thought Scour. Here is the Delver. Pass the turn back. BBD will draw. Got the Shrine, going to tap for a little bit of mana here. So perhaps time for a Step Links. It is a little late.
Little bit late to the party here.
There's Stomping Grounds going to enter the battlefield tapped. Pass the turn back. I think we might see a Terminate here in just a moment.
Well, the other option here is right now Jim's Mana Leak is live. He can simply untap, draw, take the Bolt, knock to 3, have protection against a possible Bolt to get rid of the Delver. My instinct there, I think, from Jim would have been just to take your draw step, because if BBD makes any sort of move to kill you next turn, then you still have Terminate available, and he's locked out of fetching because you have a Bolt with him at 4. But probably nothing can go wrong at this stage.
Insectile Aberration will come across, and all it took was 1 attack from Jim Davis.
BBD did a lot of the work for him.
He sure did. Jim Davis will win again, everyone, here over Brian Braun-Duin. Grixis Delver up a game here over Death Shadow Aggro as you're now prepared to take a look at the sideboards here for each of these 2 great players. We will start with the World Champion on the right, who's got a Forest, a Stony Silence, a Dismember, a Pyroclasm, Big Hoots, a Hooting Mandrill, along with a Tarmogoyf. Then 2 Ravenous Trap, 2 Inquisition of Kozilek, 2 Lingering Souls, 2 Ancient Grudge, and a Path to Exile.
I like having some amount of the more discard here for this kind of matchup. You could talk me into the path as well to clear out the Tassikers and the Gurmag Anglers of the world. And I really like having some of the bigger, more durable threats like Tarmogoyf, like Hooting Mandrills, and the 2 copies of Lingering Souls.
For Jim Davis, he's got 3 Surgical Extractions. He doesn't want to lose to Dredge this weekend. 2 Painful Shrews, 2 Dispels, and here come the fun ofs. Collective Brutality, Magma Spray. Ravenous Trap is its Staticaster. Counter Squall, Vandal Blast, Engineered Explosives, and Desert Lighthouse. Definitely a motley crew of 1-ofs.
Yes, Engineered Explosives is great in this matchup. It's a removal spell that can even stay on the battlefield, force BBD to play even further into it while Jim can pick apart BBD's board with the various bolts and terminates. I like the Dispels just fine in this kind of matchup. BBD's kind of trying to overpower him with an instant speed combo. A lot of this removal, it's a little inefficient for the matchup. I would probably stay away from most of it, but certainly the Engineered Explosives is a nice add.
All right, well, those are the options there for both players. Now, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, we are going to talk about regionals for 2017 Season 1 of the SCG Tour. This is the very first time we're going over this information, so make sure you do pay attention so we can show you this free and exclusive playmat and token to the first 200 players at each location. You see the wolf token. The name of the playmat is Howl of the Heavens. Go to StarCityGames.com/regionals for more information. Of course, we take a look and learn a little bit more about the prizes that are online here. First place, $1,200, 20 SCG points, and a qualification to our first invitational in Roanoke, Virginia next year. So we're looking forward to that, so on and so forth as far as the prizes are concerned. We take a look at our next slide. Might get you a better image of this playmat. I know you guys are going to like this one at home. It is Howl of the Heavens, again, is the name, drawn by Star City's own Andrea Radek. She is fantastic with the old artwork, and I get to see her do a lot of stuff with game night, which I know you love, obviously.
I do.
Fintuition, all that good stuff. So go to StarCityGames.com/regionals. Be one of the first 200 players. Make sure you do get the exclusive playmat and the 2/2 Wolf, a Wolf token.
Otherwise pronounced wolf.
Yes, that's correct. Go to StarCityGames.com/regionals for more information. There are all your locations. We will have exact locations. Those are all the stores that are participating. So thank you very much to all 12 stores, and we'll have locations for you guys soon enough.
Yeah, shout out to the Wasteland Gaming here in Atlanta.
Bang.
Yep.
I know you've been there a time or two.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Through the years.
Got
nice
some
to see
shirts
them.
from them.
I have. Nice to see them as a regionals venue coming up in February.
I think we'll take this moment to learn about Jim Davis, huh? Pretty good guy from the New York area. Cast a spell or two over the past 10 years. Reigning Players Champion.
Longer than 10.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes back to my time up in New York.
Yeah, he's been playing a long time. Has the 32-year-old from Long Island, New York. 11 open top 8s. 2 wins, one of which was earlier this year with Bant Company, 2 invitational top 8s. He's your Reigning Players Champion as well. We're going to see him at the Star City Game Center in 2 weeks. See if he can go back-to-back and win the Players Championship yet again. Loves himself some hockey, DJing. He's got a very popular stream, too, does Jim. And for whatever reason, I think maybe Ryan Overturf got to him with his Grixis Delver stuff.
Well, Jim has always liked playing controlling strategies, but you do have to calibrate it to where the format is at. This is not a deck that's really looking to play 9 turns of Magic or 10 turns of Magic, but by the standards of Modern, this is about as controlling as you can get. There's just a lot of really powerful proactive stuff you get to do for 0/1 mana, and not a lot of powerful stuff you get to do, reactive stuff you get to do for 0/1 mana. So it biases the format to people being proactive.
Yeah, the days of the pure control deck, I think those are gone.
It's very challenging, and you know, even in Legacy, which is the speed of the format can be faster. You have turn 1 combo decks. Force of Will, Daze, and the power of the cantrips kind of gives everyone an incentive to slow down a little bit. Not so much the case in Modern.
Well, as these players take a mulligan, we can learn a bit more about BBD, the 30-year-old from Roanoke, Virginia, with 14 open top 8s, 1 win, 4 invitational top 8s. This could be his 5th, and I actually saw Brian before we went live on air as he was walking to his table after he was 4-0. He said, yeah, and I said, you know, not the first time we've seen you start 4-0 at one of these things.
Yeah, he has had some very good day 1 performances that were followed by some extremely bad day 2 performances.
I know he wants to make another invitational top 8 and try to qualify for that Players' Championship, though.
Yes, it would be huge for Brian, and of course already a tremendous year for him. Great run at the Pro Tour, particularly at Grand Prix, and then of course topping it all off with the World Championship.
He is the world champion of Magic right now, is BBD. He's off to a great start. We were joking outside a little bit earlier, too. He said, yeah, getting ready for a day of coverage, and how about a Black-Green Delirium Mirror?
Yep.
Get you going. And you know what? It wasn't so bad.
The game was fun to watch.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I like it all.
Everything in moderation.
Right.
See if these players can find 6-card hands that they're happy with. They will do some scrying now.
Bunch of 0 mana spells and super efficient creatures versus a bunch of terminates. I like watching that too.
Yeah?
I like it all.
You'll never get me to shy away from watching some Modern, I can tell you that much.
It is my favorite format to cover. Again, everything in moderation, and I can get burned out, but I do really enjoy watching this format for good and bad reasons.
A Windswept Heath from Brian. He will pass the turn back. Not a very explosive start for the old Death Shadow deck.
So Jim with 1 main deck Collective Brutality and a second one in the sideboard. At least one appears to be in his hand right now. Don't know if he brought in the second. Would stand to reason, though.
Brian will draw.
He likes it enough to play the first one. He probably likes it enough to play the second one.
Oh, yeah. And Collective Brutality is a heck of a Magic card, man.
Yep. You can sometimes side their creatures, although occasionally you're outsized, but Death Shadow aggro tries to set up this flurry of spells, often to kill in one turn, so the duress effect is very solid as well in the matchup. Also, Collective Brutality, a great way of shoring up the burn matchup, which has historically not been good for Grixis Delver.
This is Godless Shrine, and now Brian will play a Thoughtseize. Jim will show a hand with the Gitaxian Probe, a Lightning Bolt, 2 Young Pyromancers, a Collective Brutality, and a Steam Vents.
Pretty hard to poke a hole in this one without a second discard spell.
I say take the Probe.
There's a chance if BBD's plan here is to go to Death Shadow, and he's just trying to jam up Jim's mana, Gitaxian Probe might be the card to take. Because the Lightning Bolt's irrelevant. You can't keep him off a Young Pyromancer. You don't really want Jim to go Young Pyromancer, Gitaxian Probe you next turn. So we laugh, but it's not impossible.
Well, he's going to take a Young Pyromancer. Now he'll sacrifice the Bloodstained Mire. Fall down to 14. I think we're going to see him fall down to 12 here in just a moment. Yes. There's a Stomping Ground. What comes next here for the World Champion? I think he may have shown the mutagenic growth. Oh, no.
It's bad. That's.
Oh, no. He's pretty stoic. His face is pretty stoic.
Now, you know, Jim can think it's relatively likely it is there because BBD did not take a Lightning Bolt with the Thoughtseize. That said, still not a good look.
I think we're going to see him get a Blood Crypt. All right, there's mutagenic.
The game is played in such a tight window here that Jim doesn't really have the luxury of not using the mana on the first turn. He's got to do something. Even if he knows about Gitaxian Probe, it could still be correct. Or, excuse me, about mutagenic growth, still could be correct for him to Lightning Bolt.
All right, let's go back over to JD. He'll draw a card. Serum Visions. That's a Steam Vents. This is Young Pyromancer. And it'll be bringing an Elemental token along with it here in just a second as here's a Gitaxian Probe. Brian will show a hand of Lingering Souls and Path to Exile, so he really needs a land because Lingering Souls very, very good here.
Yeah, it's a great spot for Lingering Souls. Jim on the removal and lock up the ground plan here. Lingering Souls, very good against both.
I believe Tasigur may have been the draw off the Probe. And it was. Now we pass back to Brian. Can he draw the land is the question. Well, he's got a redraw. Take a look at Jim's hand. Serum Visions, Collective Brutality, Tasigur. BBD down to 8. Hiya. Not sure he found it. Now it makes you wonder if he didn't find the land, what did he draw? And also, how does he use his Path to Exile here?
He might have to use it on Tasigur. As long as he has a Nikado back on defense, Jim can't really start attacking. But BBD, I mean, look at the life totals. He's not really in a position to attack here and try to raise unless he's got a play to the table this turn.
Well, take that. In for 3. Does he have a play? He's just going to path the Young Pyromancer. Alrighty then. Maybe a little surprising?
It depends on BBD's draw, which we don't have the information on right now. Although Young Pyromancer can beat BBD just as easily, but maybe even more easily than Tasigur. Because BBD is doing so much damage to his own life total, he doesn't have a great route to stop someone going wide against him. but a single threat in play, that gives him a lot of time to find another removal spell or just find creatures to block.
Jim going to search up a basic land here. And he's going to go with a basic island. A real decision to be made there, to be sure, about which land to search up. So I think it is worth him taking his time to figure out which one to get. All right. Jim draws Mana Leak.
I am surprised that that card is in his deck on the draw. Although now is not a bad spot for it because he can play Tassiger for 1.
Yep. Looks like he might go to Serum Visions, though. Actually, I think he might be short 1 card in the graveyard for Tassiger for 1. Yeah. Now there's a 5th card. So here's a Serum Visions.
And he drew a land, so he still got it all rolled up.
All right. Yeah, Scalding Tarn.
My instinct is to bottom both here. You certainly don't want to land, and a blind Delver here is a little slow for
this game?
For how this game is going.
There's a Tarn. In comes the Elemental token. Hello, Dylan Donegan. And Jim Davis will now play a Tassiger. Graveyard, goodbye.
Subtle but important here. Very important for Davis to get across that 1 point of damage. Death Shadow aggro deals so much damage to itself that if you're able to get in a point here and a point there, you start cutting them off of lines of play. Almost any land that BBD plays untapped, for example, is at least 2 points and likely to be 3. So now that Tassiger coming in next turn, theoretically, represents Brian going down to 3, and then a lot of lines are cut off for him being able to cast that Lingering Souls on time.
Well, he's down to 5 now because of the Street Wraith. And there's Monastery Swiftspear. And now Brian will pass the turn back, and he's got to play a little bit defensive now. Now remember, Jim has had this Collective Brutality basically all game long.
And now he's at a spot here where he can cast Collective Brutality with Mana Leak backup. So that's very efficient at breaking up, you know, if BBD is trying to set up this flurry of spells. Unlikely to be the case because he doesn't have enough mana, and we know one of the cards in hand is Lingering Souls, which doesn't really contribute to it. But still, having access to the information and to get a critical spell out here is still very nice for Jim.
Jim will untap. And Jim will draw. Engineered. Oof.
Okay.
Fuck.
That plays too. You can see the shrug there from Jim.
Yeah.
All right, I had this really sweet, you know, somewhat defensive, somewhat proactive line set up, or I can just kill you now, unless your last card is Path.
Yep.
Which it probably isn't.
All right, there's EE. Sunburst to 1. Kaboom! Those are dead. Is Brian? He absolutely is. Jim Davis going to win this match here over Brian Braun-Duin. 2-0. Grixis Delver will take care of Death Shadow aggro, and for your reigning Players Champion, it's a great start. He is 5-0.
Yep, good start here for Jim. BBD still off to a very good start as well here at 4-1, but Jim, I think, has a solid matchup here against Death Shadow aggro.